All right, so really what we're going to go through is what some commercial HVAC profiles look like and what commercial HVAC recruiting is, or what commercial HVAC actually is. Um, so the easiest way I could put it is commercial HVAC is just like the heating and air conditioning system within your house. So you have an actual system. Train is a company that manufactures that system. And then we have third-party companies that install the system for us. And then they have technicians that can fix it. And then you have your thermostat. So the new thermostats, where they're a little more digitized and they have numbers on them instead of the old turn knobs. Those are actually HVAC control systems. They're just a lot smaller than what we're going to talk about. So we're talking about large commercial heating and air conditioning systems. Mainly our markets are, I guess you would call it what we call the mush market. So you have municipalities, universities, schools, hospitals, and then just large commercial buildings in general. So Train does everything from selling it to installing it to servicing it. And when I go through the profiles, I think it'll make a little more sense on who does what and why. We're going to talk about the people that sell it, generally have engineering degrees. That's almost a given. I would also encourage everybody to get out there and do just a simple HVAC competitor search or something along those lines. We do have I do have a list that I can send out to everybody. It's not quite that formalized, or let's just do largest. The issue with that is, so you're talking Train, Carrier, York, Johnson, Goodman, Lennox. So these are all the big HVAC manufacturers. Now, where it gets a little more complicated is Train is an HVAC manufacturer. So here in Chicago, we sell Train equipment. But there's also mechanical contractors that install the equipment for their customers that technically sell it as well. So a lot of our local competitors are not only our competitors, but they're our customers. And that's the biggest thing when it comes to Train recruiting. So everybody in the HVAC world knows everybody. So say you find a sales rep out on LinkedIn and they have 3 to 5 years experience or 3 to 10 years experience. It's almost a guarantee that someone in that office is going to know who that person is. So there's not a whole lot of mystery around, hey, we found this magical HVAC sales rep. It's just not usually the case. So what you're going to find is, oh yeah, we know that person and we love them, or oh yeah, we know that person and we don't like them. So a lot of what I do for recruiting and sourcing is I'll put together name generation lists for mapping out the marketplace, and I'll let managers almost pick it. So, and we are talking about heavy sourcing here. So we're talking about going to market, finding talent. A lot of times, if you're managing a large group of requisitions, you're not going to be sourcing as much. But this is a pretty effective way if you are going to be doing a lot of sourcing to make it really simplified. So let me pull up an example for you. So what I do when I generally do sourcing, and this will actually give a good list of company names as well. So when I'm doing this type of, oh wait, this is a terrible example. Sorry about that. I was looking for an Excel sheet. Perfect. So this is an example of what I would do if I was looking for we'll get into what a control salesperson is, but if I was looking for a control salesperson in Chicago, generally what I'll do is I'll put together a list like this and I'll send it to the local management team. Just because, again, somebody either currently works for us that used to work at one of these competitors, or somebody just knows who these people are. It's a really quick and effective way to get direct sourcing done. After the managers take a look at a list like this and they tell me who their 5 favorite people are, I can LinkedIn those folks, and I can even reference that person's name, or I can cold call them, which is really effective as well. Just it matters on how I want to approach this situation. So, sharing a list like this, the local hiring team can be pretty effective. All right, so we're going to look at some different profiles here, and I think that's going to help explain a little bit better about what an HVAC system is and who sells it, who installs it, who services it. So we'll start with Brendan. Brendan came up through our early talent. So if you're ever working on an entry-level sales engineering role, generally we're looking for very dynamic individuals coming right out of school. They have a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. They're selling large train equipment. In this kind of role, they can make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. The one thing when we're looking at it, we'll have to watch the titles. So generally, someone selling train commercial equipment is called a sales engineer. They could also be called an account manager indirect. And I know that's confusing because we do have a different account managers, but an account manager indirect means they're not selling directly to the customer, they're selling through indirect channels. So what that means is they're selling, say there's a huge hospital going up in downtown Chicago. The hospital selects a general contractor that's going to take care of that project. They're going to run everything, the mechanical, the electrical, whatever. That general contractor selects a mechanical contractor to install the equipment. That mechanical contractor then is going to reach out for bids from Trane, Johnson Controls, Carrier, Daikin, all the four major competitors on who can give them the best pricing. So really the sales job of a sales engineer is minimal on the technical side, but heavy on the relationship side. But they have to have the technical degree because they're putting these large commercial HVAC systems into a building, and they need to have the right scope. They need to have this kind of measured out as to where it's going to be the right system for that building. So when we hire someone, we send them, when we hire early talent for these sales engineering roles, we send them to this program, GTP. That's definitely something you're going to want to familiarize yourself with. If there's ever a candidate that's internal or even external that wants to come back and they've gone through this GTP program, it's almost a gold star that, hey, we need to talk to this person, no doubt about it. It's a world-class training program. They send them up to La Crosse, Wisconsin for, it's 5 months, 2.5 months is sales training, 2.5 months is product training. When we're selling early talent jobs or offering early talent jobs, people are knocking down our doors for this kind of thing. So it's a great opportunity for them. And then once they graduate the program, then they'll go into an office and they'll be a sales engineer. So a lot of different titles you'll see is sales engineer or account manager indirect. And really what you're focused on is selling to the indirect market. One other thing that I'm going to send out to everybody is I have a list of keyword terms for the different job profiles that we're going to send out. So if you're looking for a sales engineer, this will have all your buzzwords in it. It should make your life a lot easier. I know it's helped quite a few people so far that we did it. Search. All right, so I'll make sure I send this out after the call. But what this is a document around the different searches that you could be putting together. So down here, this is what we're talking about, the sales engineering role. So it's equipment, system sales. These are sales engineers. So I might be looking for a sales engineer in HVAC, HVAC and consulting and engineer, searching the local manufacturer reps, Carrier, Johnson, Daikin, HVAC and sales. So all throughout my searches, I have a heavy focus on HVAC and sales and engineering. Those things kind of need to be there in order for that person to be the fit that we're looking for. So I'll make sure I send that out afterward. Any questions on a sales engineer and the technical side of the sale? So great question. That's the nice thing about Train. If there's a great sales rep that wants to relocate, there's no qualms that we'll relocate them. So if they're good and they're wanting to move to a new marketplace, because really the only thing for a sales rep, the only reason they're going to move if they're any good is their territory changes, or they want to relocate, or there's some restructuring going on with their comp plan. Um, if Brendan here is a top sales rep in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and there's not much going on, nothing's changed, he's probably not going to want to move. It's kind of the way this world works. But, you can always ask. We do pay well. That's the nice thing about training. And since I'm screen sharing, if anybody sees a question pop up on the Skype meeting, if you could let me know, I'd super appreciate that, just so I'm not clicking back and forth. All right, and then we are looking here at Mitch Andrews in Denver, Colorado. So we're going to talk a little bit about, so once that project is installed, that large commercial HVAC system is sitting in a building in Chicago. 2 years later, we want to make sure that we have a service contract on that project. So then there's folks like Mitch that go into the project and they work with building owners rather than the general contractors that are building the building. They're working with the owners of that building to see if we can set up a maintenance agreement. A maintenance agreement says that we'll do the preventative maintenance on it. We'll fix any major catastrophes that go on with the system. It's similar to any other industry that's in a building, like elevators. Anytime a new elevator is installed in a building, there's a group that sells service contracts for it. And we also sell service contracts for it. So what the offering is, hey, let us manage your service contract. We have awesome trained technicians. We'll be here 24 hours a day. Anything you need, let us have that contract. And it's usually a 1, 2, 3 year contract. So a lot of buzzwords you're going to see, and this doesn't have to be a technical sale. So when you're talking owner direct sales and service sales, you're really talking about people that maybe have a little bit of a technical background. They could even come from an HVAC technician world. I think one of the profiles I have ahead is somebody that went from technician to sales. They just understand how to sell into that market. So they don't really have to have a technical degree. Mitch is a little bit different. Mitch does have a technical degree. He even worked for Train as a marketing engineer. I think he went through GTP as well, graduate training program. But really what I'm focusing on with Mitch when I'm talking service sales is the account manager direct. So he's selling to the owners. So that's going to be your buzzword that says he's selling to the building owners instead of the contractors. And that's the best way to really determine or really separate who's selling to who. It's pretty simple. Either somebody's systems or their service. There's not usually somebody that does both. Most companies keep them pretty segregated, as do we. Now, I will say when you're getting into other sales roles outside of that sales engineer, there's a lot more room for I guess being open to different profiles. When it's system sales, they have to be selling commercial HVAC. When we're talking owner direct, they could be selling elevator service, or they could be selling something not quite as relatable. So that's where I have in here on the service sales tab. You have maintenance agreements, service contracts, competitors, anybody that sells into BOMA. So BOMA is the Building Owners Management Association. They could be selling fire alarm service. They could be selling construction service. We want to stay away from like janitorial service. Generally, that doesn't fit too well. We want to keep it a little more technical. So we're talking elevators, fire and security. Local mechanical contractors will try to sell the service as well. And that's where it gets a little hairy. So we wanted have great relationships with those contractors, so they pick us to put the equipment in. But then we're also going to fight them for the service contract because we want the service contract. That's where we make a lot of our money, is on the service side of the business. So our technicians, the second they hit the streets, they're making money. So anytime we have the opportunity for service, that's going to be a big one for us. Any questions on owner direct, account managers on the service side? Let's keep it moving here. So we're looking at Christy here. So Christy is selling, let's see, optimizes buildings. So Christy's a little more on the energy services side of the business. So now we're getting into, not only do we sell the equipment, not only do we service the equipment, but then we can also have a higher level of sales, and that's the large energy sales. These projects are very, very big. So Christy is selling to the C level at hospitals, schools. Building owners don't really do the energy savings type of sales just because they're so expensive, and a building owner is running on strict budgets. So it's a little tougher for somebody on the building side to do a large energy project. But Christy will go in and she'll work with C-level people, and it's pretty easy to determine when you have somebody that's selling energy. You're going to see a lot different buzzwords on their profile as compared to when you see the systems or the service. And what I mean by that is you're going to see words like sustainable energy environments, energy efficiency, sustainability. One other trick is if they have CEM in their profile, that's a buzzword for, or an acronym for Certified Energy Manager. And again, that's where you're talking energy. So really a lot of the folks, if you're doing searches even just by company names, you're going to see people, like say I did a search for Johnson Controls and I got 100 names. Usually in their profile, it's going to say either service or sales engineer or energy or controls, maybe even parts. That's another group of salespeople with us. So a lot of times you just have to really pay attention to what the profile says. People usually fit into their boxes within the company. Sometimes it could be a little different. Maybe they fit outside of the box, but it's pretty rare. Or maybe they're trying to get into something else. You really don't know that until you reach out to them. So Christy is energy services, and again, on the search string documents, this is going to be your lifeline. So we call energy services comprehensive solutions. So literally, if you put these buzzwords into your search, and maybe some of these titles, or checked out nasco.org, it's going to give you all the information you need. I guess that's my biggest piece of advice when it comes to getting out there and doing sourcing is do a little bit of Googling, do a little bit of research before you do, and it's going to be pretty easy for you. Okay. Let's check out the next one. We have about 9 profiles to go through, so we'll get going a little faster as we get to the technicians. It's 9:30, so we're good. So again, Doug has these 3 letters up here. So CEM, so Certified Energy Manager. So that right away is speaking to me that he's probably on the energy side of the business versus systems or service. So looking at his profile a little bit more, me personally, I know Noresco, I know they're an energy company. I know Con Edison, they're an energy company. And then if I look at his experience down here, performance contracting, that's one of the biggest energy buzzwords. And then train. So it is a little confusing here. It does say sales engineer, but then it says comprehensive solutions. So if I didn't really know exactly what I was looking at, a sales engineer is selling equipment, but comprehensive solutions is selling energy. Really what the case is he probably started off selling equipment and then moved into an energy savings role. Because if you look at his profile, having closed over 30 million in energy service contracts. So he's an energy guy through and through. So don't always let the titles throw you off. If you see multiple titles or if you see they're doing something else, usually the profile will lead you to the right path. Yes. Wouldn't that be fantastic if there was? There should be. Really, it's just a matter of we check. So the question was around eligibility for rehire. So if you check with the local HR business partner, there's I guess if they were terminated for anything gross or anything along those lines, the HR business partner will just know. But I've also had situations where nobody really knows who that person is. Maybe they worked for us 20 years ago. They don't remember them, or they worked in a different function. A lot of times it's just going to have to be we interview them and we either like them or we don't. Um, it's pretty rare that someone applies that doesn't have a good reputation because, again, they know that we know, right? Yeah, generally that's safe. Or send it to the hiring manager and say, hey, do you know this guy or gal? And usually it's pretty easy to get taken care of that way. All right, sure, no problem. Thanks for the question. So now we're looking at parts. So here we're getting a little bit further down the line. So we have our people that sell the equipment. We have people that service it. We have technicians that go in and fix it. But where do those technicians go to get the pieces when they fix it? So say they're in a building and this air conditioning system needs a new compressor. So we have parts houses. Sometimes they're attached to the local sales office, sometimes they're not. It really just depends on the area. But what these people do is, if anyone's ever been into a Napa Auto Parts or an Advanced Auto, our parts stores are identical to those places. It's just for HVAC equipment, and you have to have some sort of contractor license in order to buy the parts from there. So the people that work in sales on the parts side of the business, it's I hate to say it's a little bit lower of a sale. It's not necessarily lower. It's different. Um, like somebody selling parts, and again, parts is pretty easy. That if you look at someone's profile, so what I'm looking at here is Daikin. I see he works for Daikin. I like people that work at Daikin. I'm looking. I see parts all over his profile. So I just need to figure out what level of parts he's doing. And what parts salespeople do is really, I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie Tommy Boy, where he goes around with his dad or he goes around for his dad trying to get the auto parts stores to have his parts in the front of the store or sell more of the auto parts. That's really what our salespeople do on the parts side of the business. It's very relationship based. We take our, they don't have to understand technical keywords at all. So this could be a really open profile. You can look for people from like a Granger or a small auto parts store, and as long as they have a great personality, they understand customer service, they could sell parts for us. It's really about taking the different supply houses in the area that sell our parts and making sure that they're happy, they're getting enough of the parts they need, and they're recommending our parts because they like us. That's pretty much the gist of a parts sales rep. And then I talked a little bit about a technician, so we're talking about technicians now. So after the project is after let's see, so after the system is sold, we get the service contract. Say the system breaks down. So say your HVAC system within your house broke down. They would call the trained customer service number and reach out to a HVAC service technician like this. Now, with technicians, you have to start being a little more careful around are they controls technicians or are they HVAC service technicians? So controls is a little more software oriented and HVAC technicians are a little more mechanical. So when I'm looking at HVAC technician profiles, I want to look for certain buzzwords. I mean, obviously the first, excuse me, the first thing I'm looking for is their experience. They worked at Daikin, all these companies. he's got the word HVAC service technician, so that's pretty easy. Sometimes though they'll just say technician, and you don't really know what side of the business they're on. So then I need to start looking at other buzzwords. So I see the word HVAC. I see the word chiller. That's the biggest one that you're going to see. When you see somebody that's a chiller technician, we want them at Trane. Chiller is kind of the one thing that Trane is magical about. Our HVAC chiller systems are better than anybody's. There's not even a whole lot of conversation about it. Our chillers are incredible. Now the thing is, they're very complex. They're very big. So when you find someone that has chiller experience, it's almost a guarantee that we want them. So if I'm looking for a technician, I make it easy on myself. I might just put the word chiller out there or chillers and see what I can come up with. That way, I know that the person we're looking at is going to be on target. I don't think I have technicians on here. I think it's a separate document, but I'll get you that as well. Really, this is a high-level exposure. I don't know how many of you are going to be doing technician work, but a lot of these folks are going to have the words HVAC technician or HVAC service. The one thing you're going to want to look out for is commercial versus residential. So we don't do any residential HVAC service work. So if you do need somebody at your house and your HVAC system's not working, you wouldn't call Trane Corporate. You would call Miller's Heating and Plumbing down the street, and they come out and fix it. They work as a rep for us. We don't want the residential service business. It's just not the margins just really aren't that strong for us. So anytime you're working on technicians, just make sure they're commercial. Make sure they have the little higher level experience that we're looking for here. All right. Really good looking dog. So another technician here profile, another technician profile we're looking at here. Will Cavanis, chiller service technician. So again, you're seeing that buzzword of chiller. Again, it's pretty hands down, dead on experience when we see that. Also, you see that he worked for Brady Trane. Brady Trane was a franchise of Tranes. What a franchise means is that they act as Trane. So they sell Trane equipment, they sell Trane everything. Their shirts say Trane. It's just a matter of it's an independent office from Trane Corporate. So they act a little independently, but have all the initiatives that we're looking for. If you look down at certifications, you'll see certified chiller technician, service tech of the year. You'll see a lot of things on their companies that they're following. That's a good way to learn competitors as well. So he follows Johnson Controls, competitor. Ingersoll Rand is us, Trane, Brady Integrated Security. So just a lot of different ways to learn, closely related industries if you look at the companies that people follow. So now we're going to get a little more confusing because we're going to start talking about the controls side of the business. So you have HVAC systems, and then you have the folks that service the HVAC systems, and then you have the control systems it's separate from the HVAC system, but it ties into it. So what you have is you have these control systems, and what they do is, I don't know if any of you have ever walked into maybe the grocery store has them now. So you walk into an aisle at a grocery store, and all the lights flick on. So that's actually control systems doing that. So within a building, if you walk into a conference room, the lights flick on, the temperature goes right to 70 degrees. That's an HVAC control system that's managing that temperature increase or decrease and turning the lights on. So when you're looking at controls technicians, you're not looking for that mechanical experience. If they're heavy in mechanical, they could still do it. But this person is a lot more on the software side of the business. So you're going to see words like programming and Tritium Niagara framework. This is really technical. I don't expect you to remember this right away. BACnet, Modbus. These are all software programming systems that tie into the commercial HVAC systems. So if you're looking at controls over here, these are great buzzwords. If you simply throw these buzzwords in and then put in that you're looking for a project manager or you're looking for sales, if you're looking for whatever else, these buzzwords will get you to where you need to go. everything's pretty laid out here for you. It shouldn't be too hard. It's just a matter of understanding what the profiles look like. Train, there's a pretty solid rule that job hoppers really aren't going to fit here. We're pretty selective on our hiring. We don't want just people that fill the jobs. We need people that, are going to stay in the job based on our investment. So like this for, 5 years, 8 years, all great stuff. And since he's on the controls side, I'm going to be looking at more companies like Siemens. Siemens is heavier on the control side versus the mechanical. So it's almost a guarantee that if I see someone from Siemens, I know they're a little bit more on the control side versus HVAC equipment. And then usually they'll have some kind of degree like this. They don't have to, but usually it's an associate's in electronics or some kind of technology. And then these are all great buzzwords down here too. BACnet, DCS, HVAC, electrical controls, HVAC controls, building automation, that's the biggest one. Licenses, Niagara. Anybody with Niagara in their profile, we love them. So if you take a look at this person's name, Brian Ashman, he's almost the prototypical anybody. We would love somebody like this for controls at Train, guaranteed. And then David. So David's another controls person. They're a little heavier on the controls install. So when you're talking controls, there's people that fix the control systems, and there's people that install the control systems. So here, how I know that he does a little bit more of the install versus the fixing is the programming part. So he's doing designing. So you got system design, lead specialists. All those are install and programming roles as compared to just fixing them. ITT, Associate in Electronic Engineering Technology. All these awesome buzzwords down here tell me that they're doing programming and install. Again, it's a little more complicated. You have to get in there and look at profiles to see if they're fixing controls or installing them. But those are generally the basic principles of what we're looking for. So I know that's a lot of information. I will send out the Word document with the search strings. I think that's going to help you more than remembering everything you learned today. I just wanted to make sure you got an exposure. I know some of you are going to be working on the CTS Ingersoll Rand side of the business, and we're a little more open-minded when we're talking about sales roles on the compressed air side of the business. We can look at people from Tyco, we can look at people from really any type of service sales industry as compared to Train. Train's a little bit more, they gotta have the Train experience or the HVAC experience or really, really closely related to. Ingersoll Rand, compressed air, you can step outside of the box a little bit and find somebody with maybe a very similar industry or similar something. So you can keep an open mind there. But Train's pretty cut and dry. So, if a profile, looks a little too far outside of the box, sometimes they'll look at them, but it's pretty rare. All right, so that was a lot of information. I'm not a super long-winded person. Is there any questions or anything I didn't cover thoroughly that I might have jumped over a little bit? Does everyone feel like they're HVAC experts now? Do you feel like you know everything about HVAC?